Hey, real quick, my wife just texted me. She said consistency. That's what it is. And that's what it is. This episode 3 of the Wrestling Realm Now.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes! What you gonna do? 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 What you gonna do?
Oh yeah. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wrestling Realm Now. I am Bryan H. Waters. I'm with my brother, the one, the only, the real Dwayne Allen. What up, bro? How you feeling?
It's cracking, brother. What's good?
Man,
Another day, another dollar.
So, first of all, I forget you used to be a DJ in your previous life, you know.
I didn't used to be a DJ. I was fully capable of being a DJ. My brother was a DJ.
Well, that way that music is put together, man, it's like on point.
Well, you know.
It's on point. But I saw you did this. So one of the things, RVD going into the Hall of Fame. But before we get there, I gotta remind the people that they can just go ahead right now, hit the subscribe button, click below. You know, ain't that what we're supposed to tell them?
It's like somewhere like wait. Who knows?
Yeah, so make sure y'all hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends about the show. We on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the whole nine. So check us out there. We appreciate you tuning in each and every week.
And we're proven. Tell me how many downloads we had so far.
Man, we go over 30,000.
Over 30,000.
Yeah, so over 30,000 downloads. And we've been doing this for 10 years.
Good gosh.
Yeah, so the 30,000, that's just in the past 2 or 3. So 10 years. How about that? Every time I think about it, I'm like, wow. Even my dad was like, yo, y'all really been at 10 years. Like, he remembered, coming through the house, filming stuff for school.
Yeah.
You watch Basketball Wives.
That line got us a B-. I promise you, if I didn't say that, we might have got away with probably a B+ or A-. But the look on one of our professors' faces when I said that. Oh boy, she was not happy. She just looked at me like, "Oh, excuse me." I was like, "Oh yeah, that's what she gets for not signing off on our internship."
And I think what was even funnier, it was like, "Yeah, we still gonna do this. We still gonna do this wrestling thing, like afterwards." And look at us now, 10 years later, we still doing it.
Yep.
So, some Hall of Fame announcements was made today.
Yeah.
Rob Van Dam adds to the list. Great Khali was added last week. They added it since the last time we talked. Great Khali and Kane, but I'm definitely excited about RVD going in there. I see you excited about Kane. I don't like that one though.
Look, this is for the youngin. Like this isn't mine though. Like mine is much more nicer. This is the basic, but this is all I can find at the moment. So
yeah, I'm always black and red mask Kane. The half sleeve, that's my favorite Kane there.
Of course, that's the original. That's what we grew up on.
2 sleeves if he's going into the match with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
2 sleeves if he's disguised as the Undertaker.
Oh, that too. Yep. So, which was always funny because every time Undertaker dressed like Kane, you knew it was possible, but you didn't realize until after he took the mask. It was like, wait, duh.
Because I always had a feeling, but I was never 100% sure because, Taker is a little bit more leaner than Kane was at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, am I tripping? Is Kane look a little thinner? But, you can never tell, especially it's not like it was HD back then. So
exactly.
You got 2 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" guys. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
you get hooked into the story. So, and then next thing you know, you're like, boom, he takes off the mask, especially WrestleMania 15, leading into WrestleMania 15, when he had the doll and he set the bear on fire.
Oh yeah. That was the difference between not really back then and back down, but that's between great and memorable moments in professional wrestling versus just, kind of moments that happen when they happen and you can kind of forget them. Like you get so caught up in the story, they make you forget certain things. And then before you know, you're like, oh, shoot.
Ruthless aggression era.
I mean, hey, look, the crazy part about that is so many kids today.
I know, that's why I said it.
And I'm talking like the kids that are like, I don't watch wrestling anymore. Wrestling was tough when I was younger. And I'm like, yeah, I feel you. You're absolutely right. I feel the same way. And they're like, yeah, because with Edge and Eddie Guerrero and Drip, I was like, wait, what? Yeah, when John Cena and Edge was beefing, I'm like, whoa, time out. That's when I realized. I said, you know what? It doesn't even matter what generation it is. Whatever you grew up in at your childhood that meant something to you when you watch wrestling, that's your era.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, our parents would say that, our generation was phony. They hated the attitude there. They did too much flips and too much jump.
My dad hated it. He didn't like nothing about, like, he was okay with Saturday mornings, but man, when it went prime time, he was not for it.
Yeah, my dad would say the same thing. He couldn't stand the Hardy Boys. Every time he looked, here comes Jeff Hardy doing a Swanton Bomb on Thursday night, and he would get upset. Like, come on now, that ain't wrestling.
My dad hated Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What?
He hated him because I don't think he really knew who he was. Okay. He just, the product was changing, and we were young and impressionable. He's coming out there flipping beers and middle fingers and 316 in his jacket. I was like, oh, this isn't going to go over well with old dad. I'm like, okay, but my parents were separated at the time, so it was like, bro, it's time for you to go home. It's time for you to go home, buddy.
My Uncle Mike loved Stone Cold, man. I mean, he would always rock the shirts. He had
who didn't like Stone Cold?
Yeah, and I remember one time we talked about this, how once we got older and started working in corporate America, we realized why Austin was giving out stunners.
Right.
It's like Stone Cold. Like, man, now, you get your job, you can't stand. You're like, I feel like giving my manager or my boss a stunner because they get on my nerves.
Hey, it's like that. When you hit adulthood, you start looking at stuff completely different than you did when you was a kid. As a kid, you enjoyed all the havoc and all the melee and the commotion. But now you're like, man, Stone Cold might have had it right about this one. But
you ever had any of those moments?
No, I pretty much worked for myself majority of the time. So for that, but I knew for that very reason, that's why I wanted to work for myself. I said, man, if I ever get a bus, that's just get somebody that's ahead of me that's just not where it needs to be. I can't imagine. But Stone Cold is the epitome what I think an employee should be when it comes to a supervisor or a manager or a boss.
So what you're saying is you figured it out a long time ago.
Oh yeah. Man, what? I never want to put my life in anybody else's hands.
Mm-hmm.
But you got bills to pay. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, no, I feel
some people got good bosses. Some people have good authority figures that are in charge. It's not everybody's got funky McMahon type bosses, but there's a few out there.
Shout out to Vince McMahon for showing us what the real world was like before we got in it.
Yeah, I had one at Best Buy though.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you pressing the issue like this close, buddy.
Sheamus.
Yeah. Lobster head.
Oh man.
Yep.
What'd you watch this week?
What didn't I watch this week? It's like, no, I didn't watch a lot of the regular stuff, like the Raw and the SmackDown stuff like that. I just missed it, just being busy. But I always find myself watching something. And I think this past week I was watching, I believe it was Royal Rumble 98. I don't know why I was on the network looking at it. And I think after I watched Randy Orton's Broken Skull Sessions with Stone Cold again. Okay. And I was like, man, this is really good. Because that's we kind of sparked that conversation before about Randy Orton. So I just wanted to go back and just, when Austin was showing him some of the comparisons between a stunner and the RKO and the differences and the similarities, it just made me nostalgic. And I was like, man, I find myself doing that a lot more now because if my schedule just loosened up, it was been busy for a while. So, I don't catch things on the fly. I got to catch it either secondhand or through social media or replays. But if I don't get that, I'm consuming some type of something in some way, shape, or form. And I think, probably for the last couple of months, it's really been the nostalgia stuff. Like I've been watching a lot of old TNA Impact stuff on Pluto TV. And the beauty about that is they always run specials. I don't have to, like I've always said when it was all said and done, TNA had a lot of memorable matches and moments, but I could never get through a whole show. It's kind of like how I feel about AEW in a way. Like, yeah, it's when you look back at it in its singularity, you're like, man, that was a good match, or that was a fun matchup, or that was good to watch. But to sit there and do a whole pay-per-view or a whole show, I really couldn't do that. I did it in the early years, but it was tough for me to consume. But like I said, I can enjoy it now. I can appreciate it now, especially now a lot of those guys are kind of made superstars in the world of professional wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's been my. I mean, hopefully, with things kind of balancing out now, I should be able to get back into it a little bit more, kind of experience it instead of getting it secondhand. So, how about you? What did you catch? What did you catch this week? What caught your eye?
So I'm a little biased. Shout out to the homie Amber Rodriguez. Watched her match. She picked up a win in her debut match at Championship Wrestling for Memphis. And it was the girl Chanel doing a promo, and Amber just goes up before the match. She was like, "You need to be talking to me," and basically told the announcer, "Yeah, you need to be talking to me. Like, I'm the one about to be wrestling, but you're talking about this girl, and this girl more concerned about the Memphis life as opposed to being here in the ring." She's like, "So I'm about to go show her, and then we're gonna take care of business next week." And so she did. She won by submission. So I caught that. I was looking at Impact, and here's my beef with them.
Okay,
I'm still trying to get adjusted to this Twitch thing, man. You try to watch it, and then all of a sudden, it's almost like a headache, right? And I understand we're used to watching wrestling a certain way. So
right.
as soon as you turn it on, it's got to run an ad, right? And it's like, oh, man. So the thing is where, all right, YouTube will run your ads, cool.
Right.
But this runs the ad, like it runs the little standard ad while it's live. So you could be, let's say you turn it on while something hot. Oh no, they gotta get that ad. All right. Then every commercial, it's like you know how you just talked about the moments? It seemed like they took 5 moments, right? And inserted in there. It's always Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre.
Sure.
That Scott Steiner math promo, and then like Eddie Edwards or somebody. And it's like every commercial they run that. Mind you, you're gonna have like 6 commercials during the show, but you're gonna get all that. So it's like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna just watch the YouTube stuff. What's the top 10 things, the top 5 things I need to see from the show?
Well, TNA or Impact has always done that kind of clickbait thing where they try to capitalize on who's been there prior. So whoever's hot in the world of pro wrestling outside of Impact, they always try to run one of their matches back, or like, of course, the day after Christian Cage returns to professional wrestling, AEW, all of a sudden it's the best of Christian Cage, or Christian Cage versus Kazarian and TNA Impact versus, I'm like, okay, same thing when Bobby Lashley won a WWE Championship. Let's say throwback days, Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. So,
yeah, so that's the part that was annoying. So I'm looking at them like, all right. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what I've been watching.
I tell you what I want to do. I want to get back into I want to say more of the independent stuff. But I know with COVID and everything going on, they're kind of scarce, few and far in between. But I'm assuming that business will probably pick up in the spring and summertime. I want to get back into ROH just to see what kind of talent they have out there. Yeah. I can't say too much for the show because it's been struggling for a long time, but at least I know they usually have they always have talent, you know what I mean? So I'm back in that mode where I'm like, well, let's see who the up and coming guys are coming, because at one point in time when they popped up in NXT, we knew who it was. And they are still popping up more. Like I didn't know anything about Killer Cross. Like I heard his name, but I just didn't pay him any mind. I'm a tough draw. Like I'm not just
we know
I don't gravitate to stuff that easily. You know what I mean? But he showed up and everybody's like, oh, this guy's a big deal. I'm like, wait a minute, where have I been? But it was kind of that period where all of my favorites were in WWE at the time before the pandemic hit. So I really had no reason to really jump into global wrestling or independent wrestling as much, because I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the up and coming guys at the moment, because they're kind of cutting their teeth a little bit. Of course you had like Will Ospreay that was transitioning out of the light heavyweight division of New Japan and going into the heavyweight division, and of course you had Jacob Fatu, everything he's been doing, and of course his run with MLW, that group of guys, and of course Jay White, everything he's doing in New Japan, and Kota Ibushi kind of stepped into the main event scene. But it's like outside of that group, I really had no reason to keep really watching, because like I said, in 2015, when I went on my strike, which is what, we'll talk about at some point, everybody that I enjoy now was out there, and they kind of gave up on their WWE dream, and they were like, you know what, screw it, and they were treating where they were like it was a big deal, and it really was.
Yeah,
I stand by it today. I've seen Ring of Honor / New Japan shows that have had better match cards than All In, and All In did like what did it, 10,000 or 20,000, something like that?
10,000 people. That was the challenge.
That was a big deal, and I was like, man, they did 10,000 with that group. I said, man, I've seen Ring of Honor shows that were way more loaded than that they probably could have did 10,000 themselves if they really believed in it. But I'm like, man, can you imagine half the superstars that were in some of those Ring of Honor, New Japan, War of the Worlds and Global Wars, shows, and put them in All In, man, I think, like I said, you always got to bet on yourself. But I want to get back to that part of, this, professional wrestling space where you can go out there and figure out who's out there, who's what, who's doing, who's the next big star, coming up that, that may pop up at NXT or AEW or, wherever. So.
Yeah, that's one thing I was watching. I was trying to watch the ROH. It was their anniversary, so they had the first hour on YouTube. But I just didn't know anybody, and I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit down and watch it as opposed to just trying to watch this right now. How you feel about a guy like Jonathan Gresham? I know he's kind of like, he's the pure wrestler. So how you feel?
I've seen his work early on. Like his stuff comes on. We're on the East Coast, so we see Ring of Honor from Sinclair Broadcasting. So he was a guy. He's a workhorse. Like he's a guy that you see on TV every week. He was on there, and at one point he first came on as, I don't know if he was part of the Top Prospect tournament, but I know Ring of Honor was doing this thing where they were trying to kind of like what AEW Dark does now. Yeah, they were pulling a lot of young talent and just trying to give them these like live auditions, kind of like when TNA did
excuse me.
Did it like their little fake live Tough Enough thing where they really did, they had like, they were legit being judged live on the show, and your buddy Christian York was on it.
The York Daddy.
And that's why I first saw him, and then he kind of gradually kind of made his way and made his home in Ring of Honor. Man, he's so short even for a wrestler, and that's not a limitation, but you can always, the stigma is always, if you're a smaller guy in professional wrestling, you got to go out there and prove yourself that much more. And not only prove yourself in the ring, everybody knows that, because you always get a tag as, well, you're a good hand. Now you got to be able to entertain people. You got to be able to bring people in. You got to give people a reason to want to pay to come see you. And that's what I've seen from him recently. I don't follow a lot of what they do, but I keep up with it as much as I can. And from what I'm seeing, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing him trying to develop this personality and, being part of the faction that he's a part of, and kind of his attitude towards it now, and kind of all the young talent. I like their approach, what they're doing with Ring of Honor, because all the studs kind of left in around 2000, anyway, 14, 16, 17, whatever. The whole thing was, we're going to restore honor. So they kind of went back to some of their roots of what Ring of Honor was, because you got to do something. You know what I mean? You just can't stay stagnant. You can't keep doing the same thing, especially when all those guys who spend years on the independents making a name for themselves on the global scene, they all got fat contracts. Yeah. Pre-COVID. So him and his approach, just him and Jay Lethal and stuff that they're doing over there is it's interesting. I think they still need good dance partners, but the matches are always the matches. The Ring of Honor, that's one thing you never have to worry about when it comes to Ring of Honor. Is they're going to put on wrestling matches. I mean,
to be honest with you, they put on better matches than AEW Dark and probably AEW show.
I mean, probably. I would have to. I can sit there and watch an AEW. I mean, a Ring of Honor show on a Sunday morning. And I think it's probably the context in which I'm watching the wrestling. Okay. Like for instance, back in the day, we watched Shotgun Saturday Night. We were okay with it because it was late night Saturday night. Was it midnight?
Yep.
And
midnight,
and,
45.
And wrestling was on. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you don't judge it as harshly as a Monday, because you're just happy that at midnight there's even wrestling in the first place. I felt the same way about wrestling on Saturday mornings. I was like, man, if a show's like a WWE Superstars or Main Event, those types of shows, I said, man, put that on 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm watching, because that's the only wrestling I'm getting 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to judge it as harshly. I feel the same way about Ring of Honor. I can come home from church, sit down, and haven't even took my church clothes off. You're going to grab something to eat and sit down, and wrestling's on. You know what I mean? That's how I've seen Ring of Honor. That's why I've always enjoyed it, because I was like, man, because they're going to come out there, they're going to give you a little bit of storyline. they're going to catch you up on what's been going on if you missed it. But you're going to see, new that the first person I saw on TV was Kevin Steen, and James E. Cornette had suspended him, and he was on TV talking about how he was legally wronged, and that was one of the first times that I've seen Ring of Honor do like these storyline developments for television since they moved to Sinclair Broadcasting, before they showed up in our backyard. So it's like I can enjoy Ring of Honor. I can sit there and watch a match, not know who a guy is, but I can get familiar with him, what he does, like Josh the Goods Woods. Roosh is I remember him from CM, I think it was in CMLO, and then I think he was in New Japan. It's like guys like him, Bandito, like those guys had my attention because I think they're really, really good. But like I said, they're always gonna be typecast because they're smaller guys than in the sense of global wrestling on a WWE level, on AEW level. But I mean, they work from where they are, so I can't do that. I can't say I do that with AEW as of right now, and I really can't say I can do it with Impact either.
That's crazy. Now that you say something, you bring up a good point because you do look at wrestling different on the day it's on.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I think that's a fair assessment for those out there listening as they gather in the superior wrestling intellect. Because I was thinking about myself, wow, as much as I've been critical about AEW, you give me AEW Dark, and I see so many people that's still learning how to wrestle. They're still learning how to have camera presence. But even in Ring of Honor, I don't see those flaws as much. Now, granted, they're probably editing better. They've for what it's worth, their television product has been around longer than the AEW television product. So, and regardless of bigger budget, I know one of the things I was talking to a WWE camera guy back in, and this was right before AEW had their first Dynamite show. It was like when they had the first couple of pay-per-views, and he was critical. He was saying like that's the issue. He said, "Man, like it looks good, but it's shot horribly. It's edited horribly." So you could see. I don't think there was too many wrestling guys that was in the production truck at the time, as it was, production people. And you gotta watch this stuff from a different eye. I'm pretty sure that if let's just say this is back in Morgan State, even in our last semester, we would have probably been able to tell our teachers how to shoot wrestling better, and they've been doing this for a while. But it's different when you shoot in wrestling.
I mean, it's not even just wrestling because when you look at like even when we first did our trailer, right, and they were like, well, we were expecting something more exciting, something like boom, bang, pow. And I'm like, well, this isn't an action movie. This is a documentary. And I understood the principle of what they were saying. But in my mind, I said, I'm not changing my documentary for you guys. We just did it to stick it to you guys. And we figured, well, shoot, we're going to do a project anyway. Why don't we double it and use it, for
and
our
it was because it was
project.
us. Let's call for what it is. You might be humble on this one, but let me take my humble hat off. It was because every time when something needed to be done, who was called upon? You and I.
Of course.
That
was.
It was to a point where they knew our signatures on other people's projects. So they was probably thinking, oh yeah, we about to get that action with these two. And then we gave them wrestling and they didn't like it.
Oh, well, like I didn't, I get it because.
You know what you should have did? This is what you should have did.
I've been extremely quiet on purpose. Have you noticed? Like I let you do your whole intro. I didn't say a word. I just sat there.
You've been quiet for about a whole year too.
I just stared at the camera with this look on my face of determination and grit. But we're here.
That's what you should do.
You know what? You know the crazy part is, bro. If I just gazed, at it like this, then maybe we would have got an A- instead of that B. B-. I think things would have been different if I did that. You're absolutely right. I'm with you on that. I'm like, you know what? You're probably right. You are probably right.
Yep. Instead, we got
no, baby. That's for somebody else. We're just gonna keep you right where you're at right now.
They gave us the dusty. We're like, that was good, right? They're like, So,
oh man. Before I'm gonna take a quick break. We got a show coming up. We're gonna take them back. We're gonna break down something. We're gonna talk about AEW. Let's give them a preview. because after we come back, I want to talk about you talked about Ring of Honor.
Are we giving a preview right now?
Yeah, let's give a preview right now.
Wow.
And then when we come back, I want to talk about something that started in Ring of Honor, and that's a match that we're getting at WrestleMania. So we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, on the Wrestling Realm coming up. Stay tuned. We'll drop it sometime this week or whenever the Realness feels like it. I'm giving him the creative control on this one.
But here's how we do things, is whenever I feel like
it. Yep, pretty much. But here's a preview of our AEW Revisitation show.
New show alert. Kenny Omega is the guy who we originally believed would be the face of AEW from the very beginning. Why do I say that? Because Kenny Omega came off an extremely hot run in New Japan Pro Wrestling of what, you know, the stomping grounds in which he made his name from, all the legendary 5- and 6-star matches from Dave Meltzer that he was given. Yep. We just assumed that this company is going to be built around Kenny Omega. Let's not forget, Triple H made an offer to Kenny Omega. Yeah. He made an offer to the rest of the Elite. But the idea of starting their own promotion, being in charge of their own thing, we assumed he would be pushed to the forefront. And it seemed like for an entire year, he took a backseat so Chris Jericho could do his thing, so guys can get established, so we can build their company. But that's neither here nor there, because now we're looking at a situation where Kenny Omega, as in the time that we are recording this particular video, is your current AEW champion and could potentially wear some other world championships down the line. We don't know yet.
All right, we're back. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel.
That was an excellent preview.
Thank you. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so that you will be, and turn on the bell notifications, for goodness sake. I have
turn the bell for notifications. Turn the bell on for notifications, everybody. Turn the bell for notifications.
The bell notifications. I have them on. That way, I know each and every time the Wrestling Realm drops a new episode. And I'm also subscribed to other few shows, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, make sure y'all do that. Ring of Honor. This feud started, and guess what? I was talking to our good brother Corey, and I said, "This is my guy. This is for the marks." Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania.
Oh, I'm excited about that.
Man, they're gonna steal the show or what?
I think they're gonna try to, and if anybody's capable of it, it's those guys.
Yeah,
like seriously.
You know, I was sitting there and I was like, I saw this coming, right? After the SmackDown after Fastlane, I'm watching and I said, okay, these guys are in the ring together. Right. We got a month before WrestleMania, and there was an attack. I said, oh yeah, we getting this match. And you know, people's like, man, you sure? Is that something to be excited about? You know, people ain't as familiar, which I don't know how you're not by now in their WWE run, because they've been killing it literally since the day Owens arrived at NXT. Yeah. He pulled that, you know, he beat CJ Parker in the opening bout. Sami Zayn,
Juice Robinson.
Right. Sami Zayn wins the championship that night. Finally, after having it felt like he had like 8 tries. But
yeah, he was chasing for a while.
Yeah.
Those were the good old days too.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, and mind you, this is the infancy of the network. You know, because at the time, was during the earlier parts of Sami Zayn's run, you could only get it on Hulu.
Yep.
So now Kevin Owens is there. He shows up, then turns on him, and then wins the next time they fight. He wins by a knockout. Like, and they you know, so you can tell, like, boom, they had some big plans for this guy. I mean, you know, within 6 months, he's on TV with John Cena, and we all remember that epic video. You know, as
Hello?
Oh yeah, can you hear me? Oh, you can't hear me.
Brian H froze up.
Oh man, I can't.
Well, as he was saying, they had big plans for this guy. Everybody knows Kevin Owens came in as a big deal.
You can't hear me.
Well, most people don't realize this, how he came in. Did you just did you have a whole glitch?
Yeah, it must have.
I was picking it up, buddy. Like, as soon as you dropped it off, I was like, look.
I'm like, I checked my audio and everything says working fine.
I think you just froze for a moment. Like, yeah. Were you still talking?
Yeah.
Okay, well, go ahead, pick up, because I was like, wait, up, he froze.
Hey,
up.
no,
okay.
But I mean, that's what you do. Yeah. So Owens comes in there, and the thing is, you remember that epic video of his child watching him. He's like, oh, he's in the ring with John Cena. And
Yeah.
that right there, man. So now, and I had the honor of seeing these two wrestle at Battleground in DC. But now we're gonna get this at WrestleMania. Mind you, this is the first WrestleMania, this is the first wrestling show on a major stage, that's gonna have fans.
Oh, yeah. They talking 45,000. Was it 25 each night or was it 45 each night?
It might be 45 each night. I feel like they want to, Vince, he gonna want to, he was the first after 9/11. He want to have the first big show after after COVID. If he could, he would fill the place up. But
yeah, I mean, it'll be at 50%. I mean, that's I'm assuming so.
Yeah. So I mean, how excited are you about this one?
Oh man, I can't wait. When I first heard it, because I missed it on SmackDown, the exchange, but I saw the commercial for it, and I was like, oh my goodness, we get Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. I said, let me tell you how easy this is. First and foremost, every major superstar has that one dance partner that it doesn't matter how many times they wrestle, no matter how old it gets, they got a storied history. They're forever attached to each other in some way, shape, or form. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens their story goes so far back. There's so many chapters to it where they pick it up and drop it up. And they dropped it off a long time ago because it was like, okay, it ran its course, and they both were trying to, find their own way to make their own name for themselves outside of each other. Sami Zayn was, he hasn't taken much of a backseat. Just the opportunity wasn't always there, but he has, he's been in and out of between injuries and then gets a chance and then he gets injured and, that type of thing. But he's on a roll now. Not simply because what he can do in the ring, which is the best part about it, but the whole entertaining. It's so believable, it's so real. Like that's what you want from your characters. And then Kevin Owens has always been Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens came off a really hot feud with Roman Reigns, man. Like he really, I think he stepped back into like main event Kevin Owens mode. You know what I mean? And he proved that he can really hang with the big dog. And I think Kevin Owens was an excellent stepping stone to kind of keep pushing Reigns to this dominant place that he was, but that's not easy to do. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens is something that seems like last minute, but they have so much history and chemistry with each other. It only makes sense. Like you couldn't. Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman didn't make sense at all because all of a sudden Shane comes out of nowhere, now he's beefing. Like I get that. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, that's easy. That's an easy story to tell. That's an easy story to tell. That's an easy. And if anybody's gonna go in there and like they don't got to worry about chemistry, they don't have to worry about what these guys don't get along. They don't worry. Trust me, they're gonna find that magic on their own because these are two guys that love professional wrestling. They love perfecting their craft. They love what they do because if they weren't doing it in the WWE, they will find a way to do it somewhere else. Like that's a reliable matchup. Like we got Chris Jericho versus Kevin Owens, which fell flat. I don't blame Kevin Owens for it. I blame Chris Jericho. But Chris Jericho's a vet, so he's not going to catch heat for that. But we saw the documentary. Vince was, he was like, Vince, we're cool. And Vince was like, no.
Oh man, now you went out.
Oh shoot.
Now you go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I heard something change.
The last thing I heard you said we saw after you said you wasn't blaming Kevin Owens.
After the match, I don't blame Kevin. I blame Chris Jericho. But Chris Jericho's a vet. He's not going to care what Vince thinks. He's Chris Jericho. But I remember, on that documentary, he went back like, Vince, are we good? Are we cool? And Vince just looked at him and was like, no, that's not what we wanted. And he would just felt like, man, I let everybody down. Vince is everybody's dad, and everybody wants his validation and his applause. And he, it just felt flat. I can't even tell you what was wrong in the match, but I can say that I've never seen Chris Jericho have a great WrestleMania match.
Oh, there you go. Shawn Michaels.
Who did you just say? Who?
Him and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania.
Right, Shawn Michaels was in that match by himself. What are you talking about?
Oh, come on,
man! Come on, man! Like you gonna say something? Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was that good that he carried that man. I'm not saying the match wasn't good at all, but like that's how many WrestleManias has he had since then?
Who? Shawn Michaels?
Chris Jericho.
Oh, Jericho. So all right. Like, I will give
if you give him that Christian. One. What?
You didn't think that was a good match? Consider all right. Let's take the context here. We're talking Chris Jericho's WrestleMania matches. You gotta have a best and you gotta have a worst.
No. The story was what we were there for. We weren't there to be like, oh man, they put on a show for that one.
But they still had a good. It was still good in ring. Considering
I'm not saying it wasn't. I said it wasn't great though.
Okay.
When you talk about great WrestleMania moments, how many times?
Oh no. All right.
That's what we're talking about. We said great.
But all right, I will
I'm not
say,
saying he's not good at what he does. He's not solid. I'm saying, but
no, I
I've
know what you
never
mean.
seen. I don't in my mind. I can't think of any great moments in WrestleMania history with Chris Jericho's name attached. He's had moments,
Mm-hmm.
that were great, and I'm not taking away from Chris Jericho, but when there's a conversation about the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, his name is usually never with the exception of him and Shawn Michaels. But I'm not giving him that much credit.
Not even the first Money in the Bank match.
He's not in it by himself. Like that's the Money in the Bank match was the star. Like the Money in the Bank was the exciting part. Like I said, not taking away from Chris Jericho. The man is amazing. But I'm just talking about for some reason, it's like it doesn't happen at WrestleMania.
It doesn't though. You're right, because a lot of the stuff we felt like, okay, it's always like eating food and you waiting for the good part of the like if you eating a piece of chicken and you waiting for the flavor to kick in and it never kicks in.
And I'm an African American. That's not acceptable for me. It's a chicken.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be a stereotype, but I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. Like, come on now, flavorless chicken doesn't sit well with me. It's like I'm just this ain't it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his match with CM Punk, his match with Fandango, his match with Kevin Owens.
I've seen him have some. I've seen him have some ones that were very memorable and great, just not at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So I don't blame Kevin Owens for that one. I put that a lot on Chris Jericho. But Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn is something you can make a last minute match and say, oh yeah, these guys are going to figure out a way to make this memorable in some way, shape, or form. I wouldn't be surprised if they get put on a whole lot of restrictions. Like, well, look, you can't do this, you can't do that, because if there's every year we have that one match that we go, oh, that they're going to try to steal the show. Is this matchup between two superstars? You're like, oh, they're going to try to steal the show. Even when they said Charlotte versus Asuka a couple years ago, I said, oh, they're going to try to steal the show. And that was, to me, still the best wrestling match on the card, like pound for pound. I was like, yeah, that could have main event WrestleMania. But this is that match. When I heard that, I said, oh, there it is. That's a show stealer. Even last year, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, I said, oh, they might try to steal the show.
Mm-hmm.
But
now this is on night 2, so it's also going to be on with Roman, and it's going to be on with Randy. So it makes
that's going to be good though. That night 2 is going to. I think that's what you're getting your stories, man. Like you're getting your meat and your potatoes like that. I'm okay with that, because like when you look at WrestleMania and how they have to break it down because of the whole situation with COVID and the man, like you those 3 ones that you named are the stories that I'm like, okay, I'm interested in the most. Fiend and Randy Orton kind of stands on his own, of course, Roman Reigns, but then now this one is like, man, they got a lot. Like I'm looking forward to the video packages, because Kevin Owens said I watched a commercial because I didn't see it, but he was like, I want to bring the old Sammy back. I don't like this new Sammy. This guy's making excuses. He's complaining about the system, and he wants to beat some sense into his, former best friend. But I'm looking forward to it. We just talked about this for like 20 minutes. That's how good Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens both are.
One thing
no one can change my mind about it. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say one thing he did say to Paul Heyman. He said, it's more like they're like brothers. He said he wouldn't even consider him like his best friend. He said, they was in Quebec, and every time they indie promotions or the next town would say, okay, give me your best guys. It was always those two. So it was like, all right, well, we always traveling together. He said, it's like your family. You don't get to choose your family. And in wrestling, he didn't get to choose Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn was selected for him. And now look at him. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Like I said, I think they're going to go out there. I wouldn't be surprised if this opened the show, just because they could sit out there and set the tone. And you know how they say too, if you're not closing, you want to open to set the tone, and you're gonna go home sooner.
Right.
But I could see them, and that could make Daniel Bryan ain't gonna try to let nobody have a better match than him. So I expect them to put on the show. That's gonna close the show. Let's call it for what it is. Defeating Randy Orton, I wouldn't be surprised if they made this. I don't think they will at this point, but I wouldn't have been last year. This would have definitely been a cinematic match, in my opinion.
Yeah, probably. I did, but Wyatt had Cena, so.
No, I'm just saying if it was a situation.
No, yeah. Because when you look at just their history and how kind of when Matt Hardy was doing his the final deletion and all that stuff, he kind of revolutionized that whole style of wrestling. They kind of counteracted with the whole Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt sister Abigail story, and they kind of touched on it and they tried to go there, but it wasn't really. They didn't commit to it in a way That and it kind of
Mhm.
I don't say it fell flat. It just didn't have it didn't have as much depth to it as what you would definitely see them doing now. But I mean, I would definitely have loved to see Randy Orton, because it's kind of like last year they had the Boneyard match, and then the Firefly Funhouse match of last year's WrestleMania. I was expecting something different, but it was cool the way they pulled it off. It made sense, according to the character. But I would have really loved for them to go really, really dark for this one. Like, I'm not even a horror movie kind of guy, but I was like, man, they could have really dug deep with this one. But but it's live fans and WrestleMania trying to bounce back and get to normal. So I'm I'm looking forward to see, how does this end? Where does this go? How do we come up with this? Does Randy Orton take a break? Does he disappear for a while? Does he just leave it alone? I'm curious. I'm a sucker for good storytelling. So, whether people like it or not, whether they think it's hokey, I mean, that's, neither here nor there. That's their business. That's, you like what you like. But for me, it's a story I haven't seen before. It's reminiscent to some of the stuff that we've, kind of danced with in the past. But to see it now, it's just like, man, this is really fun. I just think Randy Orton is one of the best to ever do it. And then you have such a character like Bray Wyatt. I think Bray Wyatt is so adamant in making sure that he's constantly evolving in some way, shape, or form, because he'll tell you that his greatest failure in the original Bray Wyatt was not finding a way to evolve, because once people kind of got tired of what they were seeing on a regular basis, it was fun as far as your entrance was concerned. But then if the WWE had nothing for you, there was no way for your character kind of to develop. You lost the Wyatt family. Everybody kind of went their own separate ways. And I think he considers that a failure. He had his cinematic match with Matt Hardy, which to me was okay. I think WWE still was holding back. They didn't go there. Matt Hardy had kind of had that creative freedom and impact when they did theirs with, I believe the Hardy family faced off with Decay. They, with Abyss and Crazy Steve and I forgot the girl's name that was with them, but they kind of went there. I was like, "Ooh, this is dark." But WWE did their version, of it, and it was like I said, it seemed like they held back. But man, I think when you get desperate, kind of like last year with Taker and AJ Styles, the gloves come off, and then sometimes you end up creating really something magical and something that's memorable, and that's kind of what you want. A lot of people felt like that cinematic match itself made kind of saved WrestleMania, because it was flat because of just the performance in itself. It was no piping noise. It was just dismal, but it was, the show had to go on. Even if it was if WrestleMania last year would have even been better if they had a Thunderdome like concept where they can put in the noise, where they can, it would have been just fine. But it wasn't anybody's fault. It's just what it was. But man, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. That's the biggest thing. I'm looking forward to it. Now they got to do it in the ring. But the thing is, I've noticed it's going to be different here. And this is why I say that. This is why I go a little bit deeper. This is what we do, Wrestling Realm. They've been able to do more cinematic stuff in person because of the Thunderdome. There's no live audience there. So there's a lot of tricks and magic that you can get away with. I'm curious to see how they kind of keep that same energy, that same magic, keep those same kind of moments that catch you off guard with a live audience. And this is the first live audience we've had in almost 13 months. It'll probably be 14, 15 months, whenever we get there. So I'm curious to see that, because you don't want to leave it all in the ring, because now that's the real work. When you got to tell your story inside the ring, it's like no more tricks, no more gags, no more, stuff. Let's figure out what we can do next. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most. I think it's going to be fun, but we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. And let me ask you this. I was talking to Glenn. Shout out to Glenn from Wrestle Marks of Excellence. Is WrestleMania, I want to know your opinion, 2-night WrestleManias, are we getting this again?
Oh man, I don't know. It's tough to say. Either they're onto something, or they're just trying to make up for not having 85,000 people there, 90,000 people there. I don't think they're going to make a habit of keep doing 2 WrestleManias, but I think there's comfort in knowing that they can pull it off.
Yeah,
I did it last year with the, because you had to break it down, because there was no pay-per-view, there was no network show. Like, no one was going to sit there for almost 4 or 5 hours to watch wrestling. You had to break it up, especially in an empty arena. And I think this year they're like, well, but let's not take that risk quite yet, even though there's a live audience there. But I think because of the pandemic, the global pandemic, it gives people a chance to say, okay, we can fit half the group on one night and half the group on the next night. And then is there any talk of it going back to fans that following night after, or what's the
That's
trend?
why I haven't heard nothing yet.
I'm like, so do we go back to another Thunderdome? Do you say, okay, we're going to keep this live audience, or what? Because if you feel like you can do 50% for a Thunderdome, it's probably not safe to keep going on tour because you got to have this this whole, like, it's easy to keep things isolated, you know.
And then things that have different restrictions in different cities right now.
That's true. Everybody globally is different. Like staying down south in Florida, they don't even acknowledge it. It's easier, you know what I mean. So I mean, I guess we just kind of answered our own question, but we'll see.
My thing is with the 2 nights, I'm worried. I'm different. So I'm looking at it from the your backstage people.
Yeah.
You know, your producers are you know, they always, every time you hear somebody like whoever worked for WWE, they always talk about WrestleMania is the most stressful time. It's just like, you know, of course we enjoy it as fans, but it's that they're so busy. So I'm like, man, trying to pull that off 2 nights, that might be a lot on them. You know,
I can imagine.
You know, the wrestlers gonna go out there, they gonna show up, and this is no disrespect to them. They work one night, they good. But you imagine, you know, I feel like if you're gonna do 2 nights, you have to double a lot of your backstage officials. So you can't double everybody. Like you can't double a Triple H or, you know, shout out to the Road Dogg, wishing him best wishes, him getting healthy. But you can't double him. You know what I mean? Like just certain people, certain producers.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's tough. I don't fully like know the backstage infrastructure. But I can imagine it definitely plays a part because it's one thing to do it at the performance center. It was already a limited staff just because for, you know, COVID purposes, trying to keep everybody safe and kind of out the way. But this is a much larger situation and scenario. So I wish there was somebody that we knew that could give us a better idea. I was on Britt's show, and it was somebody that was working for WWE. He was kind of I don't remember if he said exactly what he did backstage, but he was pretty much a backstage hand in some way, shape, or form. And I'd be curious to know, like, hey, so what's it like around this time of year, and what are you guys going to do this year? Because this is the first. This is, you know, WWE's always got to make that mark, and this is the first, like I said, first big event. I'm sure AEW's going to have a show soon. They're like, well, shit, if they can do 40,000, we can do 10,000, or we can do an arena. But see, it's different. You can spread people out in an arena in a stadium rather than you can in an arena.
Yes.
So if it's a 10,000, 10,000 seat arena, you probably got to do 5. But who knows?
Yeah. All right, it's official. Daniel Bryan added to the match. The tribal chief, Roman Reigns, Edge. Now that it's official, what's your thoughts on it?
I feel 2 ways about it. If it was anybody else, I probably wouldn't like it. Let me just keep it 100 with you right now. Like, this is what you do. Keep it 100 with Brian H.
Which you can already catch my thoughts on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, you were very vocal about that. You weren't too keen on the idea. On one hand, I say, okay, let's Edge versus Roman is big enough. That's the matchup we kind of want to see. Let's see what we can get out of that. On the other hand, you want as big of a main event as possible. And as a fan, I'm not having an issue with Daniel Bryan's attitude. I'm actually loving it. I wish he would have had this. We saw this version of him more often in his earlier years, to be honest with you. Concussions and stuff like that. But I was like, man, this is the Daniel Bryan I want to see for a while. Like, stop taking this back seat, just working guys, and like, yo, you belong at the top of the card. And he's kind of being very vocal about it. And that's kind of the character. He's like, I don't care what y'all think. I belong here. There's nothing you can do about it. I've come to disrupt your fantasy matchup. And Edge is not happy about that. So the dynamic is different. I want to see how all 3 of these guys work together, because Edge is a workhorse. The way he works in the ring, he's known for his in-ring work, and so is Daniel Bryan. So Daniel Bryan versus Edge by itself could tell a different story in the ring, but now you kind of have a guy like Reigns that's more of a powerhouse, more of a slugger. And the styles contrast. Edge can pull it off, because I've seen Edge work all types of guys um, in different capacities, in different ways. And he's an excellent balance of both styles. So I can see Reigns edge. I can see Daniel Bryan edge. I'm not sure how it's going to mesh with all three. How do you keep me interested? Because Daniel Bryan's going to try to go toe to toe with you with your locks, but you got to have a guy like Roman Reigns is like, he's Thanos. He comes out with that gold gauntlet on his wrist for a reason. Like, yep. I come to dominate, make noise, and get out of here. I've come to be a powerhouse. That's what he does best. And it's like, well, I'm curious to see how they pull it off. I think they have a chance to do something special. Everybody's hot right now, like Daniel Bryan is a guy. Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns' history is more intertwined than I would have liked it to be. But I mean, here we are. And then Edge is Edge. Like, y'all don't like your Edge. Like, how could you not? It doesn't matter what he does. Everything he does touches gold because we're so happy to have him back in the first place. He's the guy that wasn't supposed to wrestle anymore. And now he's back in the ring. And now he's in the main event of WrestleMania. And now, even on SmackDown when he snapped. And I'm like, oh, good. Now we're getting this side of Edge again.
That's the Edge I want to see.
And everybody, I said the same thing watching the commercial. I said, there we go. That's the Edge I know. I said, that's the Edge. And that's the Edge that Daniel Bryan kind of referred to. Like, yeah, it's weird to hear you say that you don't appreciate how I did something when you're the ultimate opportunist. I love Daniel Bryan's attitude. Like, he's calling everybody on their crap. Like, don't be holier than thou. Dang, I just didn't like how you did it. No. You should appreciate it because let's not forget your history, buddy. I'm loving it. I mean, I appreciate it. They've got me excited for WrestleMania. Because like I said, it's for me, I'm grown. It's supposed to be fun. That's all I care about. It's got to be fun. I'm not here to write critique, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm gonna tell you what I like, what I don't like, but as long as you can get me excited, and I know it's kind of not last minute, but it's kind of on short term. You got to figure it out, and it's not as exciting because the season of WrestleMania has changed. Because the season of WrestleMania is supposed to be a very social time, and it hasn't been. Yeah. So it's like, I don't feel like WrestleMania, but the card is shaping. I think the presentation of it is going to make us feel like, wow, we're watching wrestling again. Because
I'm excited to see that stage.
They're going to do something big with the stage. They have to, because they're going to show off for the live fans. They're going to show off. The performers are going to go nuts because that's what they've been waiting for. I think a lot of people are going to be like, I hope they have plenty of dark matches and plenty of pre-match Royal Rumbles, because I know the guys and the girls in the back are just fiending for the energy of the fans. And that's the basis of the business in the first place. Yeah,
somebody tweeted that first person who comes out there in front of that live audience is gonna get the loudest pop. Like, you imagine the pop they're gonna get. One thing about Daniel Bryan and WrestleMania, man, I mean, this is his 4th world championship match. Okay. And I was just thinking, I was like, wow, obviously the first one was at 28 with Sheamus. WrestleMania was a phenom in itself. Kofi Mania. And it's like, wow, this guy really snuck up and had 4 championship WrestleMania matches, world championship, because then there was the US title when he was on the pre-show, and the Intercontinental title. If I'm not mistaken, that match with Dolph Ziggler and Big E, was him and Kane tag champions?
That I do not remember. I have no idea.
And so at WrestleMania 29. But this guy's been doing his thing, and so. And I think it makes sense. Like you said, he's super hot. All the guys are hot right now. It's like, man, what would you have done with him if you didn't put him in this match?
There you go. You just had to have him. You had to pair him off with somebody, and you had to put together an entire story last minute. But hey, I'm good.
Before we get out of here, one person I want to ask you about, man, Kenny Omega. I mean, the Good Brothers. These are guys.
The Good Brothers, my guys. And I was tag team right now.
Earlier today, and I was sitting there, taking notes, and I still didn't write these down. I put them in the Google Doc, and I had a question for you, and I was like, sure. To me, they seem like they lost some steam, or like they lost the Impact locker room because they left New Japan. They come back and they aren't welcome. Kenny Omega, every time like they get in trouble, like they're there. Kenny gets in trouble, they're there for him, but when they get in trouble, Kenny's like going nowhere, and Dark Callis is like keeping Kenny Omega away. So what's going on with the Good Brothers?
Well, what do you mean? They lost the locker room? What does that even mean? Because that locker room that's an Impact is like according to Matt Cardona, it's the island of misfit toys.
Oh yeah,
they're all new faces. It's not like they were old, guys that they were with.
Well, it's something when I was watching it, they was just kind of looking at these guys like, well, what are you doing here? Who are you? That's been the whole thing where, when they lost the tag titles to was it Finley and Robinson? Was it Finley?
Yeah,
Um,
Finjuice.
yeah, and they
Yep.
said, all right, well,
David
we're going
Finlay,
to New Japan, and you're not getting a tag title shot. So it seemed like they lost the respect. That's what I mean. It's like they're not being respected as the OGs in wrestling the way I feel they should.
OG Good Brothers. I mean, I really don't even know. Couldn't even tell you. I think they're caught between two worlds right now.
Mm-hmm.
With what they do. They're doing more with AEW and Kenny Omega, which is to me where they really want to be. Than they are really an Impact. And Impact, their roles kind of help make new tag teams because all their matches they were so uninteresting. One, because they were in empty arena due to the pandemic. Another reason they were in there with all young unheard tag teams. So the younger tag teams seem to me have benefited more than the OG Good Brothers because it was like, well, you expect them to beat all these guys. It's not like when FTR went into AEW, they were kind of coming into a kind of a rising tag team division, I should say. And in Impact, it was kind of like, well, pending pandemic stuff, they kind of came in. It was like, well, there wasn't that many outside of the North. There wasn't that many exciting tag teams that made you say, oh, I'm tuning in to watch these guys. Like AEW had the Young Bucks. They had the Lucha Brothers. Of course, they had Jurassic Express. I'm not a fan of by any means, but I'm not going to take away what they were able to do. You had a SCU and let me see what else. Another big tag team. I mean, and guys like the Butcher and the Blade came in. Like just these characters that made sense,
Right.
And they were focusing on tag team wrestling a little bit more than any other promotion was at the moment. So it was kind of like, oh yeah, and the way FTR came in, they're like, well, look, we don't care about what happened before. We're not here to bash anybody. We just want to be the best tag team in the world, and we feel like this is the place to do it because this is where tag team wrestling. This is where the tag teams are. This is where the tag team wrestling is going down. This is where we want to be, which I always respected them for that. They never bashed WWE blatantly when they left. And then when you heard about what happened, they had every right to leave. I think they made the right move. But with the OG Good Brothers, I didn't see that. It didn't make sense. They were just kind of there all of a sudden because of circumstances beyond their control. Paul Heyman, I had to catch myself. I'm saying a few words.
So I heard you.
That my mama wouldn't be proud of me using.
He's still mad, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm not getting over that. I don't like. I still don't like Paul Heyman to this day. All the great stuff he's doing, I still don't like him.
Don't talk talking smack with the realness because he was like, I don't care.
I'm gonna start talking smack about Paul Heyman. So when they started getting involved, I enjoyed them getting tag team titles because it just makes sense. Like they're just one of the most decorated tag teams of today. And then when they started doing stuff with Kenny Omega, this is almost the third Bullet Club leader they've been teamed up with, and it made sense. It was exciting. It was fun. I like how they were kind of being themselves. But it's like, what do you do with them now?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That the Impact roster is kind of thin. It's not like it's the greatest thing since they lost. He lost Eli Drake a while ago. And then he goes to NWA, and now he's back in NXT. It's LA Knight. Like he's got some. He went there. He kind of learned some things, and now he's in that space again. And then, who just left? Who's his name was? It's the guy. Oh my gosh, I forgot his name.
Right at him from
Ethan Page.
Ethan
Page. Yeah, Ethan Page. He's a guy that they think he's like. A lot of people think Ethan Page is going to be probably up next. He's a guy that has a lot of potential. He has a big personality. The in-ring stuff is clearly there. But he leaves Impact, and now he's in AEW, as far as I know. Yes, he's in AEW, right?
Yep.
Ethan Page, so to me, I'm like, okay, so what's going on with this partnership? Because it seems like they're working together, but what happens with Impact guys decides, okay, well, I've been working with Tony Khan in AEW for the last month and a half. I kind of want to stay over here now. Like, what does that do? How does that damage your product? And I know they pay them a lot of money. A lot of those guys, to me, Impact now is like the ECW of the group. So, but yeah.
Oh shoot! I almost forget this. See, this is what happens. This is a lot of what happens with us on the phone too. We're letting the world back in on our wrestling conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Hurt Business. Seem like they're no more. Your thoughts? We talked about it pre-show. You had a different outlook. I was ticked off. I tweeted. I straight up tweeted. It seemed like the black groups just can't stay together. The New Day was something like, okay, we're giving you that one.
Right.
You know, and Black Wrestling Twitter is also upset. Even I got 32 likes on that tweet.
Right.
So what's your thoughts on it?
I mean, it makes sense. Like, you know, it's nobody wants the Hurt Business to break up. They want to have a full Horseman run.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of understand you got to leave. You got to leave while you're on top before you mess it up.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather leave by choice than be forced to leave because we stuck around too long.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the Four Horsemen. When you think about the Four Horsemen, you think about its heyday. You don't think too much about. See, my light's ready to go out. It's ready to get dark in here soon. You don't think about, you know, all the other stuff in between. You kind of think about, you know, the heyday. You don't remember all the incarnations and all other kind of stuff. But I mean, we'll see where it goes. You know, I think, of course, everybody's sad to see it go, to see those guys, because you question what are they going to do now? You know, are they going to fall by the wayside? But you know, I can understand where everybody's frustration. You know, as soon as we get something good, it's pulled from under us. But Bobby Lashley is where he is now, and I don't think he needs a group to go with him. So we'll see.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. You know, that's why I like asking you these questions. Even stuff that I don't understand, you can show a different perspective.
Yeah.
And that's the best part of the show. Before we get out of here, let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Dwayne Allen 24. You should see it right here. Nope, it's right here. Yep. See, I made Bryan keep it here for the whole show this time. You also find me on Instagram at TRDA brand. That's TRDA brand. It's not Trada. It's not TR the brand. It's just TRDA brand.
Man, you guys,
page, but you can come follow me anyway.
You gotta tell people about that shirt because it's dope.
Oh, this is something. This is Proud Wrestling Fan. See that? It's got the Nike font on it. So it's got a Wrestling Room logo back here. These will be available soon. We're working on merchandise stores so we can kind of allow the people out there to help support us and just be a part of the movement of the wrestling realm and celebrate with us, you know, being these 10 years in. So
yeah, definitely. You know, get ready. So y'all asked for shirts, so they coming. Shout out to, oh my goodness, I forgot the gentleman's name. I was on the Pro Wrestling Roundtable show. Bad Blood. Shout out to him for having me on. He definitely said he wanted to cop one of these shirts. So,
yep, there it goes. That's my light. Just went out.
Well, we can still see you halfway.
There you go.
But that's time to get out of here. But so make sure y'all go ahead, hit the subscribe button. Let the people know where to find it. I mean, let the people know about us. And then if you're on Apple Podcasts, go ahead, drop a 5-star rating. You know, RVD's going to the Hall of Fame. So, you know, I don't want to see nobody doing any 5-star splashes because you see RVD hurt his stomach every time he did it. So imagine what you would do. So make sure y'all catch us next week and tweet us. Let us know how you feel at Wrestling Round. Tweet us at Dwayne Allen 24. Tweet me at Bryan H. Waters. Until the next time, folks, so long, everybody.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes!
All right.